After more of a day of traveling, we arrived on Tenerife in the Canary Islands. Seattle, New York, Dusseldorf, Gran Canaria, Tenerife. Could it take any longer to get somewhere? In fact, it could. Instead of jet power, we were now preparing to go back across the Atlantic under sail aboard the Outremer 45 catamaran Pelican. Our crew of 4 spent an enjoyable 3 days in Santa Cruz aboard the boat preparing her for departure. Her owner had spent the previous few months aboard cruising in the Mediterranean before making the trip to the Canaries, so Pelican was very squared away. We made the usual pre-trip inspections, including a trip up the mast, replaced a water pump, checked fluids and stowed gear, and made a great provisioning trip to the giant Carrefour supermarket. After a great farewell dinner in one of the many outdoor cafes, we were early to bed and ready for a morning departure. Under sunny skies, we motored out of the harbor at Santa Cruz and headed southwest with light breeze, full main and gennaker set. After a few hours, the breeze died and we were under power, foreshadowing the conditions for the next day. Once clear of the islands, we experienced some fantastic sailing and 20+ knots of wind. Although it was a bit uncomfortable for a few days, it was an excellent test of the boat's performance with the direction forward of the beam and often close hauled. These cats with daggerboards can indeed make good angles. Brad Baker back at Swiftsure Yachts headquarters in Seattle was helping with weather routing via email over our Iridium satellite phone. Watching the severe lack of breeze to the south and 2 low-pressure systems just to our west, we boogied west-northwest for 6 days until we were able to make a left turn around the top of the second system, cracking off and letting the boat do what she does best. My personal log from day 10 reads, "As I write this, I'm seated at the cockpit table of Pelican, 1,100 miles northeast of St Marten. The wind is on our quarter at 23 knots and we're making an effortless 9.5 knots under main and jib, with surfs into the mid-teens even in confused seas." As a lifelong monohull sailor, this trip was a big revelation. This crossing was my first long-distance offshore experience aboard a catamaran, and I was blown away by the ease with which we attained some very impressive average speeds. 200-mile days are not uncommon under main and jib alone. For those wanting big grins, these boats will attain speeds of fully crewed 50-foot racing sleds under white sails only and on autopilot. Our top speed, 23 knots, slightly over canvas in a bigger than average squall. Speaking of squalls, nothing beats the cockpit of a cruising catamaran. Expansive seating at a large table beneath the hard bimini makes for the ultimate space for relaxing with a book and a cup of tea, games, or dinner with the entire crew, all on deck while out of the sun or rain, underway and traveling at raceboat speeds. What a novelty. Fishing is a highlight of any offshore sailing trip. Aboard Pelican, we trailed hand lines from each hull, although with our fairly non-traditional route, we didn't have much luck until we reached warmer waters a few days out of St Marten. A lure dubbed Purple Midnight by the guys at Seattle Marine did the trick, and we enjoyed some great meals from a beautiful wahoo and medium-sized jack. 17 days after departing Santa Cruz, we arrived on the French side of St Marten in the very early morning. The clouds cleared for our arrival and we had fantastic full moon sailing as the swell built up into long Pacific-style rollers on the shelf. It was fitting to have the last night of sailing be the best. Once tucked into the marina at Marigot, we had the luxury of sleeping late, then off to a crepe restaurant in town for a late breakfast. Now back to reality and an internet connection. The smartphones came out and conversation was reduced to the bare minimum. Back to reality, but not without some great memories of fast and fun sailing on the Atlantic.